Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to my world. Welcome to Talk Leadership with Cedrick. You know, everybody needs a little TLC. And this is the Thursday edition of Talk Leadership with Cedrick. And I'm excited that you're joining us today. You know, Talk Leadership with Cedrick is where we focus on leadership and personal growth with business leaders, educators, and local thought leaders. Our goal is to introduce our audience to leaders who are making an impact with innovative ideas. You know, our guiding leadership principle is the law of contribution, which says growing yourself enables you to grow others. You see, you can't give what you don't have. So first, you must grow yourself in order to grow others. Now, we believe that outstanding leaders like yourself will help us to help others tonight. So tonight, folks, sit back and relax. We have another dynamic leader with us in-house. Now, you know, every week I like to do a proper introduction of my guests. So allow me to introduce my special guest, Ms. Karen Watts, who is the executive superintendent in Brooklyn North, and she covers a wide range of schools. So you're going to get to hear from a lady who has been doing it for a number of years. She only graduated high school a few years ago, but she's been the superintendent for a number of years, right? So first of all, Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Cedrick. Excited to be here with you this evening and with your audience.
Awesome. So Karen Watts is the executive superintendent of Brooklyn North. She oversees 231 schools and 4 pre-K centers in Brooklyn North. In the Brooklyn North Community School Districts, which is districts 13 through 16, 19, 23, and 32, including the high schools in those districts in Brooklyn neighborhoods at the range from Sunset Park to Red Hook to Bedford, Stuyvesant, Brownsville, and East New York. She was the former Brooklyn North High School superintendent and an executive principal in District 16. She has also held positions of principal, assistant principal, and high school science teacher during her 27 years in the New York school system. Now, that just tells you, folks, that we have a leader here that has been doing it effectively for a long time and at a high level. So I'm excited to have Karen with us on the show. So again, welcome, and let's just get started.
Thank you, Cedrick. Great to be here in my personal capacity this evening, but talking about education. That has been my life's work. So excited to be here.
Yes, ma'am. So, you know, Karen, everything rises and falls on leadership. And you and I met several years ago at the John Maxwell Team Conference.
Yes.
And so you've been on this journey through education for a while. Help us understand. I read your bio a little bit, but the audience like to hear from you. So what's been your journey to leadership, and really how did you get to where you are today?
So very good question. I always say that my journey in leadership began at birth. I was lucky to be born to 2 teachers who became educational leaders in their schools soon thereafter. So I sort of grew up in 2 principals' offices in different schools, and because, you know, of my parents. And then, you know, I came to this country eventually and began teaching here. And very soon, I knew I wanted to continue to impact a larger number of students. So I knew I had to go into administration. And I've been in that journey for more than 20 years now, as a high school principal for 9 years in Manhattan, and then as a turnaround high school principal at another school in Brooklyn, where I was the first executive principal in Brooklyn, where I took over a school that was not doing well and quickly turned it around. And then I went on to be the high school superintendent in the Brooklyn North area for over 8 years before holding this position of executive superintendent.
Wow. So, so you've been teaching students and other leaders in the school for a while.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
that is awesome. So, what's the fun part of being an executive superintendent, and are you still having fun and enjoying it?
Oh, I have fun every day. I can't wait to get up to get to my work every day. My work is my play, as I like to say. And so I, I think I get a lot of joy from seeing the students succeed in their academics. We believe in building the whole child, so we include a lot of social emotional supports in our schools, and I work every day to bring resources to all of our students so that they can have the very best experiences in our schools and be prepared for technologically advanced future. And to that end, we do a lot of work in Brooklyn North around something we call our secret sauce, which is we aim to have equity through STEM education. So we ensure that all of our schools engage in providing experiences for our students. And so I get to do a lot of that work, bring in resources to the principals, ensuring they have all that they need to address the needs of our scholars.
Wow. Well, that has to be awesome. I'm going to ask you a follow-up question on it because I like what you said around you believe in building the whole child.
Yes.
Right. And so that means, not only just the academic component, but also a lot of students have things that they deal with outside of school. Could be at home, could be with peers, out in social in social environments and all this type of stuff. So you're saying, hey, in Brooklyn North, you guys really address everything that the child to help the child have the best education experience as possible. Is that what I understand?
Yes, and we do that through our social emotional programs. In the past, we had programs that sort of were standalone outside of the academic classrooms. But since the pandemic started, we've really shifted to integrating the social emotional and the academic learning. And so we are continuing with that as we come back into physical buildings in September, still ensuring robust academic programming and robust social emotional program, but just ensuring that they're integrated in the classroom and available there where our students are, right? To ensure that they're getting supports in every one of their classrooms. They don't have to wait for special periods to experience social emotional supports. Yeah.
Right. That's awesome, and I'm sure that your students are going to benefit from that, and more importantly, the school's going to benefit from it because theoretically, you have a more engaged child because all their needs are being met.
Exactly.
Right. I love it. So, what are some of the exciting things that you're looking forward to this coming school year?
Well, we've just rolled out our plan here. Our chancellor has in New York City. Very excited about the priorities and the principles on which we will base our work going into the new school year. I've worked closely with other members of the Central Department of Education on ensuring that we will be implementing, well, we've started implementing it over the last 2 years since New York State published the Culturally Responsive and Sustaining Education Framework, but we're really doing a deep dive into it now as we come out of this pandemic, ensuring that we are providing a welcoming and affirming environment for our students. We are holding our students to high expectations with rigorous instruction. We're ensuring inclusive curriculum, and we're ensuring that we provide the professional learning so that we can build the capacity of our team members to be able to work with our scholars. And so that is very, very exciting work for me, in addition to all of the priorities that we're focused on. such as early literacy, something that I was interested in even since I was a high school superintendent. I would always find myself going to all of the early childhood professional learning opportunities because I understood how important it was to build a foundation for our scholars, that they could read well by the end of second grade so that they could read to learn in the higher grades and really be able to access content and knowledge and build skills. So that was always critical, important to me. So I'm excited that we'll be focusing on that in the coming school year. We're also continuing to build on all of the work that was done with digital literacy during the remote learning in particular. We were on that road already in Brooklyn North. But now that we have built capacity in our teachers, our students, our families to use technology tools like this one, for meeting, for leading, for teaching, for learning, we want to continue to use those tools going into the new school year. So we are ensuring that all of our students will have access to devices, have access to internet so that they can continue their learning at any time. Right, on the weekends and so on. So excited about that opportunity. And then, of course, we are going to ensure that we continue to focus, as we've always done, on our most vulnerable students, our students with disabilities, or multilingual learners, or students in temporary housing, ensuring that they all have the supports they need to be successful as we come back from the pandemic. Among other priorities, there is also a lot of investments in social and emotional learning with more social workers in our schools, and ensuring that we are creating curriculum that is reflective of the population of New York City. So very excited about all of the wonderful work that we are endeavoring as we come out of the pandemic.
Wow, it sounds like you guys have really rolled up your sleeve and dug deep around this, and students should be looking to have a very fulfilled school year. And it's going to be good, right, to get back into the building from since being out for such a long time with COVID. I know that has to be fun to get back in.
So I would say that right now we have summer rising taking place where we have all of our students coming on site into school buildings. And it's been great for me to visit and see all of the smiling faces sitting in classes, engaging in academic learning, being supported socially and emotionally on site, students really getting to sometimes meet peers for the first time. They've met them online over the last 2 years, and now they can actually see them in person. So that's been exciting to see in our schools, and as well connecting in person with teachers and just being back in physical buildings. Some of our students have not been there in a year and a half.
It's been a while. Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's amazing. So when you were growing up, and tell me again, where'd you grow up?
Oh, I grew up in Guyana, South America, but rural Guyana. Yes.
Okay. All right. So when you were growing up in Guyana, and I know you said your parents were both educators, but did you ever imagine that you would be leading a school district, a large school district? I think you said one of your schools has like 6,000 students in it, right?
That's true.
I mean, that's huge. I thought you see, Karen, I've been under this impression that everything big happens in Texas, but
I see.
6,000, that's a lot of students in one for one school. But so when you were growing up, did you imagine that one day you would be leading a school district?
In a way, in that, as I said, I was born to two educators, and fortunately, my dad passed away when I was 9. But as he was studying to become a superintendent in Guyana, so I always felt that was my legacy to continue to fulfill, And so, but I didn't know where my life would have taken me in doing so. So when I came here, I tried to stay away from teaching. I started teaching in Guyana at 16, because that's where people begin teaching in Guyana when they graduate high school. And so I began teaching math, but then I decided to first come to the city for 2 years and to take advanced courses, the equivalent of the AP courses here, advanced placement courses here.
Okay.
And then I came to study medicine. And so about a year into my studies here, I realized that I did not want to go in the path of medicine. Instead, I wanted to teach. I was studying chemistry. Chemistry is my major. I started being a TA at the college, teaching chemistry and all of that. And so I wanted to continue in that path. So I eventually became a chemistry teacher in Queens, New York, before going into administration. So whilst I was, when I started teaching, I thought I would just be a teacher for a very long time. At that time, in the early 90s, people did not move into administration very quickly. But I had opportunity when I was taking my last course for a second master's I was working on at Pace University. I happened to be in a class with someone who told me about a position as an assistant principal in a school in Manhattan, and asked me to go there to interview, felt that I would be a good fit for the school and will be able to help the school. And so I went there, I was hired, and eventually I became, of course, I started as an assistant principal, and then I eventually became the principal at that school and was able to turn that school around. And that's why I was tapped to be the first executive principal to go and turn around a second school. So I've done 2 turnaround schools as principal. So a lot of experience there. And then what I found was that all of the strategies I developed in the first school, when I brought those to the second school, I was able to turn around the second school very quickly. So I thought that there was something to this, that, I could help other schools that might be struggling. So when the opportunity arose for me to become a superintendent, I was very happy to take that role on. At one time, I had as many as 84 high schools in my portfolio.
Oh, wow.
Yes, including some schools in Brooklyn South, some high schools in Brooklyn South. But I did that for 8 years, and then I had the opportunity to become the executive superintendent, where I now oversee 7 community districts and the high school district in Brooklyn North. And I have the ability now to not only work with high school students, but to work with students all the way from 3K to the 12th grade, and beyond and before, because we also have something we call the Brooklyn Basics here, where we aim to support our babies through 3 years old, so they're ready for school at 3K. So it's all exciting work to really take care of our young people in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So I want to touch on a couple of things that you said, because I think that there are nuggets that students can learn from, and parents as well. So one of the things you said is, hey, you changed your major from medicine and you decided to go into education. A lot of times when students decide to go to college, or they're deciding to go to college, they don't know what they're going to major in. And Uncle Frank tell them to do this, Aunt Bessie tell them to do this, and Mama tell them they should do this. And so they pick a major based on maybe what they saw a relative do, or a parent recommended that they do this. And then they get in college and they realize, wow, you know what? Maybe I don't really want to do that. I want to like this a whole lot better, right? So then they struggle with that. So hearing that you change your major, I think will help somebody else say, oh, it's okay then if I change my major, right? Yeah. And I know there's a study, I think it was Ohio State University, either Ohio State or Ohio University did it, where they showed that 75% of students changed their major at least once. I was always an overachiever, so I changed mine twice. So
Yes, I mean, I was doing very well. I was first a pre-med major in my freshman year, but I found that I loved the physical science. I've always loved mathematics, and so and also something that was very important in my education at St. John's University was also that I felt supported by the professors in chemistry and physics and so on, and more so maybe than the professors in biology. So that played a role as well. I was able to do some research in the labs and things like that that really continued to fuel my interest in chemistry and in physics. And so I eventually became a chemistry, and I also taught physics. But I, you know, at one time I felt that, you know, that you know, I often look back and say maybe I should have continued along the lines of studying to become a doctor. But now I encourage others to do that. I get a lot of satisfaction, I guess, from encouraging others to go along the road to medicine. So although I didn't have the opportunity to do it, there are others in my family and others that I support. All of the students that I come across, many of them are pursuing medicine. So I get to live through that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And then the other thing is, which is, goes to your performance, which is you turned around not one school, but two schools, right?
Yes.
And I know that, I'm not an educator, but I know that has to be a difficult task just to turn around one school.
Yeah.
Right. And then for you to do two of them, that's just phenomenal and awesome.
No, I mean, it was, I didn't do it alone. It was my ability to work with my teams, the relationships I built with team members, with students, with families. It took a lot of that. Of course, it also took a focus on academic learning, and even back then, social emotional learning too.
Yes.
A lot of supportive opportunities for students so that they can be successful. And then bringing in certain programs. There were certain programs that helped to improve the outcomes at the schools. And, you know, I continue to still use programs like AVID. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of AVID, Advancement via Individual Determination. That was a program that I used that the first school that I was at that was very, that helped me to get the results that I got as quickly as I got.
Well, that is awesome and phenomenal. Well, this guy that you and I both know, John Maxwell, says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less, right?
Yeah. True.
So awesome. So, Karen, what makes you smile every day?
Well, I am very happy with where I am in my life now and my career. I have grown children who are all doing well. The youngest is 20 and in college.
That's why you're happy.
After raising children for so long. And then with my career, I'm in a place where I'm able to do really, really good work for a lot of students. There are 102,000 students in the 200, and it's going to be 232 schools in the 21-22 school year. We're adding a STEM middle school in one of the districts. So, so I get to I work with wonderful people, the leadership team in Brooklyn North, the superintendents, deputy superintendents, the directors that support the work, excellent people for me to work with. And then it's great. Our principals are excellent. They work very hard to ensure that they do the very best for the students in our schools. So I'm happy that I get to support them and to, as I said before, bring resources to them from the Central Department of Education and from grants and so on. I'm always looking for opportunities. And so that's very, very rewarding to see the success of the students. I had the opportunity in June to go to many graduation ceremonies. Great to see how the themes that we have in Brooklyn North of hope, love, and science come to life in our schools and in our graduates. We don't want those themes to just live in our schools, in the physical buildings. We want them to live in the people that we're developing. And it's great to see that and to see school communities loving on the scholars and their families and so on. So all of that gives me a lot of joy.
That is awesome. You said the theme is hope, love, and science?
Science, yes.
Awesome. I like that. Awesome. So, leaders, Karen, come in all different styles and packages, and they all have different strengths, right? So when you look at leaders and people who are interviewing for leadership positions in your area, what strengths do you look for or that you feel are important for successful leaders to have?
So, very good question. So for me, the most important strength a leader has to have is vision. A leader has to see the way, as John Maxwell said, right?
Right.
So that you can show others the way, right?
Right.
Definitely vision is really high up on my list of strengths. I tend to be very visionary. I love living in the future, although I do understand that I have to come back to reality every now and then.
Yeah.
And especially in the field that I'm in, science and so on, that there's always something exciting on the horizon that we have to keep our eyes on. And so, yeah. So definitely visionary. I look for strengths in being a leader for equity, a leader who will ensure diversity and inclusion in the school community or at the district or at the borough level. Leaders who are empathetic, leaders who will take time to listen, especially to members of the community who might have been marginalized, and then to take action to address the needs that you might hear from certain members of the community. Leaders who center our students and their success in all decision making. So those are some of the strengths, in addition to having expertise in education, whether it's the content area or in leadership. All of those matter, but I think the strengths is just to be good people, to be visionary, people who listen well, people who can center our students in the decision-making process. Yeah, those are top of mind for me.
Yeah, those are awesome strengths. So I keep a list for like about the last 18 months. I've been keeping a list of all my guests, or what they say for leader strengths, and also for this next question that I'm going to ask you, because I think that it's so important. Good leaders ask great questions. So what has been some of the best questions that either you have asked or someone has asked you and you thought, wow, that's a really great question?
Well, over my career, I've been asked many great questions, and I think the questions that come to mind right now are ones that we recently asked in preparation for the 21-22 school year. We conducted what we call empathy conversations, where we met with the community members of the regions or the areas in New York City that were most affected by COVID-19. And so, we asked what they would like to see in schools for the 21-22 school year. And actually those priorities that I spoke about previously were a response to what they asked for. So I think this is the first time ever that we really sort of have like a mutual plan with the citizens of New York City, saying, we've asked you what it is you would like to see in our schools for your children, and here it is, we're delivering on what you said you wanted. I'm getting chills talking about it because it was so powerful to hear from families, from teachers, from educators, from community members, what they would like to see in our schools. And it's so great that we're working to deliver on what they ask us for.
Wow, well, that's awesome. When you were saying that question initially, I was thinking you were just talking about to your internal stakeholders, the principals and the teachers, but you're reaching farther out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I like that, and I really love the question as well. And when people then see that you implement some of the things that they said they'd like to see, man, talking about buy-in.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, the coronavirus, obviously the world was impacted, right? If we went back to December of 2019 and I said, hey, Karen, the world is going to be shut down. Not only your city, not only your subdivision, your city, not only your state, but the United States. In fact, the world is going to be shut down. Nobody will be able to go to work. You would probably think, man, that guy's crazy, right? Right. However, now that we know that it can happen, and it did happen, right? We have a different lens that we're looking out of, right? So the coronavirus really turned the world upside down. So how is your, school district, or you probably can't answer for the city, but how is your schools prepared to handle any leftover challenges from COVID?
Okay. So pre-pandemic, we were on this road with technology. As I said, our secret sauce in Brooklyn North is equity through STEM education, and that's where we get our science team from.
Okay.
And so we had a plan for using technology tools for leading, for meeting, for learning, and all of that by 2030. But our 2030 came in March 2020. Right? So everything we were planning for the next 10 years were all accelerated in 1 month, right? In March 2020. So we were already doing a lot of the work in preparing for using tech tools in education and so on. So we are going to continue doing that post-pandemic when we come back into the new year. And we are going to ensure that at least we'll be ready should we need to go to remote because of COVID-19, et cetera. We'll be ready for that. With regard to other challenges, we are preparing this summer to ensure that we address students' learning needs, their social emotional needs. We understand our students will be coming back from the pandemic with trauma. So we are ensuring our schools are going to be healing centers for them and so on. So with respect to those kinds of challenges, we are ready as well. And should anything like the pandemic happen again, we are ready. We're continuing one-on-one computing. We're continuing to maintain the capacity of our staff and our students to use tech tools, et cetera.
Yeah, it's amazing how certain things or events can really jumpstart a business, a company, a school district to make them move sooner than they wanted to. And it also, I think the positive side of it is it lets them know that we can move faster if we want to, right? Or if we need to. And so I really I think that's going to be a positive out of this the pandemic. I think your screen might. Are you still there? Still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right. I thought your screen had frozen for a little bit there. So
Okay.
we have a segment, Karen, on the show that we call "Would You Rather."
Ooh.
All right. So we'll play a quick round of "Would You Rather." It's actually pretty fun. So, would you rather have $1 million or 1,000,000 friends?
Perhaps $1 million, because I'll probably be able to manage it to impact more people than managing a million friends to impact others or something.
Yes, I know. I'll take the $1 million too. Would you rather be the smartest person or the funniest person?
Oh, the funniest person. I love to laugh.
I knew you were going to say that.
And I always like smarter people around me that I can learn from. So
There you go. Would you rather fly to the moon or be invisible?
oh. Well, with my scientific background, fly to the moon. Well, maybe invisible as well, but fly to the moon. I would love to go to the moon, especially with what's happening this week, right?
Yes. Yes.
There's a real possibility we can get to the moon. So.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, being invisible would be good, though. You can just sit there and listen. Oh, that's what they say when I'm not here. Would you rather go to work in dirty clothes or a superhero costume?
Oh, superhero
costume.
I've had superhero costume at work, and I've worn them at work.
Have you? Okay. Okay.
I've worn a cape, all of that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You were a superwoman?
Well, the cape was about increasing reading and literacy and so on.
Okay. All right. All right. Would you rather meet your great grandparents or your great grandchildren?
Grandchildren.
Grandchildren. All right. Couple more here. Would you rather be a ninja or a pirate?
I'm a ninja.
A ninja.
And the reason I'm a ninja is this, because I drive to work on the BQE. I don't know if you know what.
No, I don't know what the BQE is.
The BQE is this expressway here in New York City that's very, it's between Brooklyn and Queens. Okay. And I have to take it to get to Brooklyn in the morning. So I say I sort of like do ninja driving to get to work on the BQE. So ninja.
Okay, all right. Would you rather own your own private island or your own private jet?
I think jet. I would want to travel.
Jet? Yeah, see, then you don't have to take the BQE.
Right? I'd imagine having my private jet eventually will have those little jets, our own jets.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So last one. Would you rather have $1 million in Amazon gift cards or $100,000 in real money?
I'll go with the real money.
Real money? Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for playing that round of Would You Rather.
Yes, very nice.
Awesome. So, how can parents help you guys in this coming school year?
So what has happened during the pandemic is amazing in that everyone now understands how important parents are in the equation of learning or helping their children learn. So during the pandemic, I went into many remote classrooms, and it was great to see in those remote classrooms, the parents there with their children in the little screens, right? Learning alongside their children, helping their children to learn. And so, that just showed what parents have always done. They've been the first teachers of our children, and they can be wonderful partners in ensuring the success, the academic and social emotional success of our students. So we're just looking forward to building on that when we come back into physical buildings, really having our parents as partners, and ensuring that we're continuing to find ways to connect with our parents. That was, afforded us when we were remote and everyone could connect on Zoom and so on. We saw a lot of parental participation in all of the events at schools and so on, and we want that to continue. And at Brooklyn North, we are one of the only borough offices in New York City that has a director who is focused on family and community empowerment, really strengthening all of the structures that include parents in the school, in our school communities, everything from our PA or PTA to our school leadership teams and so on, and then at the district levels as well. So we want to continue to strengthen those structures so parents, so we can give parents voice. There are places for them where we can hold space for them to come in to discuss. Sometimes difficult conversations, but we want our parents as partners. We want families as partners, and we want our schools to be welcoming to all of our parents and families. So really looking forward to continuing to work alongside our parents in continuing to educate their children. It is our pleasure, and we thank our parents for entrusting us to educate their children. So really looking forward to continuing being responsive to what our families, what our parents want us to do on behalf of their children.
Wow. Awesome. Well, thanks for answering that question. Growth has to be intentional, right?
Yes.
And so what do you do for personal and professional growth?
Well, that's a very good question. I see myself as the lead learner. I never stop learning. I'm a ferocious reader of the newest research in education and in business and in other areas as well, not only education. I also attend many conferences. I look for opportunities to learn new things, new ways of thinking of what I need to do. And here in New York City, any opportunities for professional learning, for superintendents, for executive superintendents, I am always there. I never miss an opportunity for professional learning for myself. And that's something I encourage as well in the team members at the borough, in the districts, in the schools, for them to continue to develop their capacity so that they can be most effective in working with our scholars.
Awesome. Any great books you're reading that you would like to share with us?
I have one right there that a principal just gave me, State of Emergency.
Okay.
So I go into schools and I often get books and so on that I can then read. But I love to read. I read many different books.
Yes. Awesome. So what advice would you give, Karen, to emerging leaders who are looking for leadership opportunities and ways to, fill their professional toolbox?
Okay, so I love working with emerging leaders, whether it's teacher leaders or leaders aspiring to administration in education. So here in New York City, we have many opportunities for leaders to participate in programs, sometimes leading to higher certification areas, but sometimes just for development. And I've had opportunity to recommend and nominate leaders who I see out in my schools, out in the districts, for those opportunities. I lead some of those opportunities. There's one called the Ed Pace Setters. So I mentored some senior leaders last school year. Starting next week, I am an instructor in an aspiring superintendent's academy, where I will have 12 participants or students for the whole school year, starting on July 19th. And at the end of the school year, they will be nominated to become school district leaders. So that's the kind of work I enjoy doing. I enjoy mentoring. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy training aspiring leaders at all levels of the organization.
Awesome. Well, for all of those emerging leaders that are out there, it's important. We talked about growth has to be intentional, right? So when senior leaders are looking at you, they're looking to see if you're growing, not if you're just technically sound in the subject matter that you work in, whether you're in a pharmaceutical company, whether you're in education, whether you're in car dealership, whatever it is. They're looking to see if you are constantly trying to grow yourself and make yourself better.
Right.
And when you are, then they believe in you, and it's going to show. Trust me, it shows when you're growing, and it shows when you're not growing. Right.
True.
Some parents may be reluctant or worried or nervous about school safety in this coming school year, right? What do parents need to know about school safety for this coming school year, and how you guys are prepared to make sure that their child is safe?
Well, before the pandemic and during the pandemic, that was our number one aim, to ensure that we kept students safe. And we will continue to do that in the new school year. Now that we have been in a pandemic where there were certain rules and regulations that we had to follow in order to maintain safety, health and safety, we will continue to do that, continue to follow the guidance of the CDC, the New York City Department of Health, and the New York State Education Department and the New York City Department of Education, the guidelines that they will put out based on what the science is saying of how things are going with the pandemic, etc. So I trust that the guidelines that will come from the department or from New York City will be guidelines that put the health and safety of our students and staff in our school buildings first. So as we have done throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's always good, good to know. And, everybody's going to be a little nervous about this school year just because, one, we never went through a pandemic before, and now the recovery part, that's going to be a little nervousness there. So that's good that you guys are helping them with that. So, it's amazing, but this 50 minutes has gone by really, really fast. And before I ask my last question, I just want to make sure that I tell you again, I thoroughly have enjoyed this conversation. And thank you for accepting my invite to come on Talk Leadership with Cedrick. And hopefully you've enjoyed it as well.
Oh, yes, it's been my pleasure. It's an honor for you to have me on your show. And, it's been great knowing you since we met at the John Maxwell conference. And it's great to know that, you are doing your work across the country, your leadership work. And I admire you for doing that. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So my final question is this, Karen. If there was a book that was written about you, what would the title be? And what would the summary in the back of the book say about you?
Oh my gosh. So I always, when I became the first executive principal in New York City, there were some newspaper articles of me where they called me the super principal, the miracle worker, and things like that. So I always thought that would make good, books. If I were ever to write a book, but now I think maybe something along the lines of hope, love, and science.
Okay. All right. Hope, love, and science. All
Yeah.
right. And then what would the summary in the back of the book say about you?
Wow. Oh, about me?
Yes.
A dedicated leader who led with love, something to that effect, and ensured, worked very hard to ensure the success of all of the scholars that was in her care.
Wow.
All of the scholars in her care, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I like that. Hope, love, and science. The book about Karen Watts, and I love that. So, I guess it's always my final question again, which is, when is the book coming out now?
Oh, now I have to go write that book.
Yeah. You see, it's like you got to put it there in someone's consciousness, and then now we got to make it happen.
Yeah, so I got John Maxwell book, The Greatest Story Ever Written. I just have to write that story.
Yeah, there you go. You're already ready now.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, again, Karen, thank you very much for coming on the show. Folks, we have been listening to Executive Superintendent in New York, Karen Watts, and it has been a wonderful conversation. I know that you got something from this conversation, and now you're just ready to take it to the next level in your leadership, whether you're in education or you're in some other area. So thank you for tuning in tonight, because without you, audience, this show doesn't exist. So I'm excited that you're going to learn some things from Karen in our conversation. Make sure that you hit the share button and share this with someone. Someone that needs to hear this message. An emerging leader that needs to hear from a senior leader on what things they need to do, how they should do it. Someone in education that may benefit from this conversation. So click the share button and share this message so that we get the word out. Tomorrow is Friday. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, tomorrow is Friday, right? So tomorrow we have Friday Mental Motivation, 8:30 a.m. Central Time. We're going to be here with 15 minutes of pain to help get you motivated, inspired, and encouraged to end your week strong and go out and have a great weekend. So make sure you tune in at 8:30 Friday morning, 8:30 Central Time, Friday morning for Friday Mental Motivation. And remember, folks, the only difference between ordinary and extraordinary is extra. The only difference between winning and losing is belief. The only difference between hot water and boiling water is 1 degree. You see, at 211 degrees, water is hot. At 212 degrees, water boils. With boiling water comes steam. With steam, you can power a train. The only difference between a person reaching their full potential and not reaching their full potential is desire. So make sure you put a little extra in everything that you do. Thank you, guys, and good night. Let's always tell you, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, and don't be on the menu. Bye-bye.